Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist, Infographic Review 2. I should be able to say that by now. So the graphic we're going to look at today is from the United Kingdom Center for Army Leadership. I saw this over a year ago, I think, and I put it in my plan of videos to do. But the reason it's been stepped up now is because I read somewhere that the UK is going through sort of some meetings to find out what they need to change or how they need to adapt to go forward to all these different challenges. Well, they need to work on some leadership stuff based off of this graphic. And I'm offering this to perhaps have them look at this and think that I'm a complete moron, or look at it and say, we need to talk about this, not we, them. I did have somebody who's affiliated with the Ministry of Defense that we were going to go over and do this together, but he is super busy and very famous, so he and his team are too busy to do that, which is fine. I'm going to do it anyway, and then maybe he'll reach out and say, hey, you were completely wrong, let's do it again, which is fine. So again, here's our evaluation. Character traits, archetypal concepts. That's basically what we do. So the Archetypal Leadership Model, which is linked up here for you to go look at if this is your first time here, this chart is derived from that. So like I said, the Archetypal Leadership Model is now the universal standard for leadership, and then we're going to go everything back to that. So at the end of this video, hang around, we'll give this, a grade. It's the last thing I saw. All right, so Center for Army Leadership, adapting your leadership style. So if you look at the chart, it's got climate. Let me move this just so you can see, and then you'll know what's down there. So impact on climate and culture. So all these over here in the red are negative on the left, and all those towards the top and the right are positive. So let's go through these really quick. So you've got directive, pace setting, participative. So directive and pace setting are considered negative. Participative, coaching, affiliative, and visionary are considered more positive. Now these are derived from Daniel Goleman's 6 leadership styles, which I have not read because I'm doing this. We're doing the infographic. So let's look at some of these categories. So directive. To maintain immediate compliance, do as I say, authority and control, and to turn around a crisis. That's negative. Okay, pace setting, to set high standards. Do at my pace, results-oriented. Require quick results. And then participative, to forge consensus through participation. What do you think? Collaborative, and need the team to agree. All right, so let's stop right there. And I'm going to be blunt. I don't understand how turning around a crisis is negative impact on culture and climate. And how is setting high standards of performance a negative impact on culture and climate? That makes no sense to me. You turn around a crisis, that's your job as a leader. Obviously, things shouldn't have gotten to crisis, but if things are falling apart, you're on the bottom. You're on the bottom line. You're at the top of the pyramid. You're the one that's going to get fired. You need to go fix that. How is that negative? So, incorrect. Setting high standards of performance, incorrect. You're the Army. So we're going to set high standards of performance, which means we have to be able to shoot faster and move faster and communicate better than the bad guys so we win. Well, that's too high a standard. So we're not going to do that. Are you sure? You are not. That makes no sense. Being results-oriented is negative? So what are you supposed to be oriented towards? I don't understand. Well, we had a great training event, but half of our gear didn't work, and Nobody's rifles worked and nobody could hit the target, and we actually failed every time that we tried. But everybody stayed safe. So, we didn't have any results for our training. That's negative? All right. So over here, coaching. Develop people for the future. What might you try? Individual and team development and to build awareness. Okay, so this is positive impact, but this is considered a leadership style, so only these things apply. Here's the deal. To set high standards of performance, you have to coach all the time. To turn around a crisis, the first thing you do is ask questions, try to find out what happened. Was it intentional or was it a mistake? And then you coach. To achieve results, you coach. So these things are not separate. These things have to go together. So you can tell I'm feisty about this. I mean this with all respect because this needs to be thought about. All right. And then you look at affiliative, to create harmony and emotional bonds, to forge consensus through participation. That's participative and affiliative. What do you think? Relationship building, motivate and heal rifts, need the team to agree. Emotional harmony, collaborate. So realistically, affiliative and participative are two sides of the same coin. In other words, you create harmony, you get consensus, people are participating. It's all the same. It's the same. These are all basically the same idea, just being said differently. Here's the one that sticks in my craw. People come first is affiliative. People come first is everything. People come first comes from setting high standards of performance. If you have your people trained so that they can blow things up faster, shoot faster, engage faster, outmaneuver, outthink the bad guys, then the people live. So these cannot be opposite. And what's the other one? Oh yeah, turning around a crisis, that's people first. Negative is turning around a crisis, but it saves people's lives. Okay, so you see, I'm frustrated with this because obviously it's a center for Army leadership, and they've got a great graphics department, but I don't believe a leader wrote this. They went and looked at Daniel Goleman's leadership styles, but a person that has leadership talent did not read this or did not write this. And then visionary, this one, to mobilize people towards a vision. Okay. That's the definition of visionary. Come with me. All right. That is also do as I say. Come with me. What do you think? Come with me. What might you try? Come with me. Leading change. Okay. That's visionary. And then you need a new vision. So we're going to lead people towards a vision, but we need a new vision. And that's being visionary. So this is a mess. Okay. There are things in here that are contradictory and they don't make sense. If you were to give this to somebody that wasn't a leader, they would go, oh, well, turning around a crisis is negative and setting high standards is negative. Being oriented on results is negative. But having a new vision every day is that's the ideal. Okay, so here's my offered solution to this. The one thing they did get right in this is that you have to evolve and adapt based on the evolving situation. As a leader, you have to be capable of the entire range of behaviors all the time. When you do them is a frequency issue. So you have to be willing to drop the hammer on somebody for doing something terrible and toxic. You also have to be willing to do nothing if everything's running great. And then there's everything in between. So let's go to the next slide. So here's my proposed change using the terms from the previous chart. So core, fundamental, the core of the organization. People come first. Individual and team development, set high standards, being results oriented or orientated, and leading change. Leading change really is coaching and all this other sort of stuff. If you are going towards a positive goal, you don't have to lead change because people will know you're doing the right thing. It's when you're doing something really asinine that you have to lead change. Okay, often you should coach, motivate, and heal rifts, create harmony, collaborate, participate. Rarely should you take complete control. Rarely should you stand on the mountaintop and say, do as I say. Immediate compliance, rare. Turn around a crisis, rare. Only when there's a crisis. And then new vision and mobilize. Normally, you say, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my vision. Here's the objective. I want my unit to be able to execute this type of mission with this level of precision at this speed. That's your vision. Well, you can't have a new vision every day. You got to go out here and coach and motivate and create harmony and collaborate and participate and set high standards and go towards the vision. Now, you might change. You might realize your vision's too small, but you don't keep coming back with a new vision. Today, this is my vision. Today, this is my vision. That's ridiculous. That's terrible. What's missing from that chart? What sort of person is capable of this? Because if we go look at the archetypal leadership model, you've got despised and you've got feared. Well, the feared guy will probably do it, or feared woman will probably do it. But the despised one is not going to set high standards, be results oriented, and people come first. And they're really not going to coach, and they're not going to create harmony because they're despised. So you have to have, you got to pick the right person to be able to do this in the first place. And look, part of the downfall or part of the problem with what our society around the world has become, at least the ones I'm aware of, is we have this idea that everybody has to be able to be in charge. Well, there are some people that just shouldn't be in charge. You have somebody that's the best technician ever and has zero people skills. Well, they have to be in charge. Why? Because the system says so. No. Maybe you've got somebody who's really good with people who understands everything about the technical stuff but can't do it. That's who you put in charge. And then you keep putting them in charge of people. And you watch them and you make sure they don't become power mad and you change them around. But the technician, let them technique. Let them be technical. All right, where are the checks? So on this chart, it says the adapting style and more transactional style. Where's the vigilance? Because if you're in charge of an organization and you're going towards your vision, you need to be around checking to see how compliance is going. You don't sit in your office. You got to be out of the office. You might go somewhere you've got 4 subunits and you're supposed to be doing the same task. And you walk over and look at one of them and people are laughing and joking and there's cobwebs under the equipment and it's all dirty and it's this and that. Well, what's going on there? You walk over to one of the other subunits and everything's perfect. Everything's shiny. People are laughing and joking and having a good time. Music's playing. People are doing everything absolutely at a standard. What's the difference there? Is it a training issue? Is it an execution issue? Is it a leadership issue? You don't know, but you need to find out. And so where are the checks? Because like I said, you've got this entire range of behaviors you have to be willing to do, but you don't know which one to use unless you're looking. And then set the example. I mean, you have to be the example. Sometimes you have to be the one that goes out and says, here's what I meant. When I said I wanted this, this is what I meant. Because sometimes people just have to see it. And you got to be willing to do that. This doesn't talk about it at all. So again, with all respect, I hope that somebody at the Center for Army Leadership looks at this and goes, man, we should talk about this. And has a meeting and they start discussing this sort of stuff. Or they might say, well, that guy's a Yank. He doesn't know anything. That's fine, which is cool. Anyway, like I said, if you have questions or comments, or you have an infographic that you find that you'd like me to react to, emails in the show description. And I hope you have a great day. Oh, wait, the grade. I think you know where this is going. So this is a bad chart. It's a bad chart. It's contradictory. Doesn't have anything about character. Doesn't have anything about the talent. And has a bunch of structural problems. It's got it's got integrity problems. Okay, well, that's that. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for your time and attention.